There's a moment in life when the smallest act of kindness can change everything. For one woman, a simple decision to help a stranger would spiral into a story that no one saw coming. One that would leave you wondering if good deeds truly come back around. It all started on a quiet afternoon in a small family-run restaurant where the owner, Maria, was behind the counter preparing for another typical day. But that day would be anything but typical. As Maria wiped down the tables, a woman walked in, looking worn, tired, and hungry. Her clothes were tattered, her face drawn with exhaustion. She approached the counter slowly, hesitating, as if unsure whether she was even welcome in such a warm, inviting place. Maria glanced up, sensing something was off. The woman wasn't asking for much, just a meal. But there was something about the desperation in her eyes that made Maria stop everything she was doing. Without a second thought, Maria smiled gently and waved the woman over to a seat. "Don't worry about paying," she said, her voice steady and reassuring. "You look like you could use a warm meal." The woman seemed taken aback, but there was a flicker of gratitude that crossed her face before she sat down. Maria brought her a hot plate of food, and the woman ate with a quiet intensity, savoring every bite as though it had been ages since she had tasted anything. Maria didn't ask questions. She didn't need to know the woman's story. What mattered was the here and now, the simple act of sharing a meal with someone who needed it. Little did Maria know, this single act of generosity would soon come back to her in the most unexpected way. Months passed, and life continued on as usual for Maria and her small restaurant. She didn't think much about the woman who had come in that day until one evening when an unfamiliar car pulled up outside. A sleek black vehicle, far different from the everyday cars that typically parked by the restaurant. The door opened, and out stepped a woman, her figure instantly recognizable. It was the same woman who had walked in so many months ago, looking for a meal, but now she looked different, more confident, dressed in an expensive suit, her posture straight, with an air of authority that wasn't there before. Maria's heart skipped a beat. Could it really be her? The woman who had looked like she had nothing? She watched as the woman walked toward the door of the restaurant, but this time, she wasn't walking with a sense of uncertainty. There was purpose in her steps. When this woman entered, Maria was already behind the counter, wiping her hands nervously. "It's you," Maria said, her voice a mix of surprise and confusion. The woman smiled. "Yes, it's me. I'll never forget what you did for me that day. And now I'm here to return the favor." Maria didn't know what to expect, but what came next left her stunned. The woman who had once been a stranger down on her luck now seemed to be someone entirely different, someone with the power to change everything. What she said next would not only surprise Maria, but leave her questioning everything she thought she knew about kindness, generosity, and the power of a single act of goodwill. The woman leaned in, her eyes glinting with something unspoken, and said, "I want to do something for you, for your restaurant, something you could never imagine." Maria's hands trembled as she set down the rag, unsure of where this conversation was headed. What was going to happen next, and what could a woman who had once been starving now offer in return? Maria stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing. She glanced at the woman, who was now standing tall, her eyes shining with something Maria couldn't quite place. Was this a joke? Was this some kind of trick? How could someone so polished, so clearly successful, possibly owe anything to a small-town restaurant owner like her? But the look in the woman's eyes made it clear. This was real. This wasn't some fleeting kindness or a casual gesture. There was something much bigger at play here. "I'm not sure I understand," Maria said softly, trying to find her words. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what felt right. She smiled, awkwardly running a hand through her hair. It wasn't as if Maria expected anything in return when she'd helped the woman months ago. She simply saw someone in need and offered what she could. That's how she had always been. A mother, a friend, a neighbor. She'd spent her life working hard to make sure her small restaurant was a place of warmth and comfort for everyone who walked through the door. But this was different. The woman shook her head, her smile widening. You don't get it, do you? That meal, that kindness. It saved me. I wasn't just hungry for food that day, Maria. I was starving for something more. She paused, as if gathering the courage to share something personal. I was at rock bottom. I had no home, no job. Everything was falling apart. And then I walked in here. And you treated me like a human being, not like a burden, not like I was invisible. You gave me hope. Maria felt her chest tighten. She never realized how much a simple meal could mean. She hadn't asked for. The woman's backstory hadn't pried into her life, but now she wished she had listened more, understood more. The gravity of what she had done started to sink in. The woman stepped closer to the counter, her gaze fixed on Maria with a newfound intensity. I'm not the same person I was then, she continued. I've spent the last few months building myself back up, getting a job, finding stability, and now I'm in a place where I can do something for you, for your restaurant. Maria shook her head, still in disbelief. I don't need anything. This is just a small place. It's nothing special. She motioned around the modest interior of her restaurant, the mismatched chairs, the simple wooden tables, the walls adorned with old photos from the town. Was her pride and joy. But she knew it would never be anything extravagant. She didn't need a grand life. She didn't need a grand restaurant. She just wanted to keep serving her community, making sure they felt welcome. But the woman's expression softened. You may not think it's much, but to others, it's everything. I've watched this place. I've seen how you treat people. You've built more than just a restaurant here, Maria. You've built a family, and that's something special. It's rare. Maria's heart swelled at her words, but she still couldn't grasp the magnitude of what the woman was offering. She had no idea how someone who had been down on her luck could possibly have the means to help in a way that would make any real difference to her restaurant. The woman pulled out a business card and slid it across the counter. I'm in a position now where I can help you expand. I've got resources, connections, and I want to help you grow this place into something more. You deserve it. Maria stared at the card in her hand. The woman wasn't offering a simple donation. She was offering a partnership, a chance to take her little restaurant to the next level. Maria's mind swirled with uncertainty. Could she trust this woman? Could she really allow someone into her life like this? Especially someone who had been a stranger just a few months ago. At that moment, the door opened, and a couple of regulars entered, interrupting the conversation. Maria's attention shifted, and the woman gave her a knowing look, as if to say, think about it. She didn't press for an immediate answer. She simply smiled, turned, and left the restaurant, leaving Maria to process everything in silence. Maria couldn't focus on the customers that came in next. She kept thinking about the woman's offer. Her heart was torn. On one hand, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She had always dreamed of expanding her restaurant, of giving her staff better wages, of reaching more people in the community. But on the other hand, Maria was protective of what she had built. She had always done things her way, on her terms. The idea of letting someone else into her world, especially someone she barely knew, made her anxious. What if things changed? What if the restaurant lost its soul? She wasn't sure she was ready to let go of that control. As the evening wore on, Maria's mind raced. She could barely sleep that night, tossing and turning, replaying the conversation over and over. What if the woman really could help her? What if this was her big break? Or what if it all went wrong? The following day, Maria walked into her restaurant with a sense of heaviness in her chest. As she went about her usual routine, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something important was hanging in the balance. She had always believed that good things came from the heart, from the genuine connections she made with people. But now, she had to decide whether to take a leap of faith into something that could change everything, or keep playing it safe with what she knew. The woman's words echoed in her mind. I want to do something for you. Something you could never imagine. What was she really offering? What was the catch? And most importantly, could Maria trust that her kindness would be repaid without losing everything she had worked so hard for? The days following the woman's offer were a blur of doubt and indecision. Maria couldn't shake the weight of the decision she was facing. Every corner of the restaurant seemed to carry the echo of the woman's words. You deserve more. But did she? Wasn't her small restaurant exactly what she had always dreamed of? It was cozy, warm, and a haven for those who needed comfort. Yet something inside her, something deep, kept telling her this was an opportunity she couldn't ignore. She spent sleepless nights going over every angle. She spoke to her daughter, Sophia, who worked alongside her. Sophia had grown up in the restaurant, sweeping floors, helping with the kitchen, and serving customers. She was passionate about keeping the family business alive. But even Sophia could see how the restaurant was beginning to feel strained. Maybe, it's time, Mama, Sophia had said quietly one evening, her face full of concern. You've always given everything to this place. But maybe it's time to let someone help. But even then, Maria hesitated. The thought of handing over control of her beloved restaurant was almost unbearable. How could she trust someone who had only recently been a stranger? It felt wrong to risk everything she'd worked for, no matter how much potential the woman had promised. She told herself she wasn't ready. But the decision was suddenly taken out of her hands when, just a few days later, a letter arrived. The envelope was crisp, professionally addressed, and had a logo stamped on the front, one she recognized from the woman's business card. She tore it open, her hands trembling. Inside was a contract, a formal agreement outlining the partnership the woman had suggested. There were figures, projections, promises of investment, and clear plans to help revamp the restaurant into a larger, more modern space. The letter also contained a message from the woman. This is my gift to you, Maria. The chance to take your dream to a new level. Don't worry about the details. I'll take care of everything. You've earned it. For the first time in days, Maria felt a flicker of hope. She could see it now. An upgraded restaurant, more customers, a bigger team. She could continue doing what she loved, but without the constant pressure of worrying about keeping everything afloat. This woman, this stranger, was offering her a way to grow without losing the essence of what had made her restaurant special. The thought felt like a breath of fresh air. It didn't take long for Maria to make her decision. She called the woman, her voice steady, but with a touch of emotion. I'm in, she said, her heart racing. Let's do this. Within weeks, the changes began. The restaurant's interior was remodeled with a delicate balance of modernization and warmth, keeping the charm that Maria had worked so hard to build while making it more inviting for a larger crowd. The woman worked tirelessly behind the scenes, bringing in new ideas, marketing strategies, and even arranging for a team of chefs to help Maria expand the menu. It wasn't just about the food anymore. It was about creating an experience, one that made every customer feel as welcome and loved as Maria had made them feel from the very beginning. The opening night of the revamped restaurant was nothing short of magical. There were smiles everywhere, on the faces of the loyal regulars, who marveled at the changes, and on the faces of new customers, who couldn't wait to try Maria's cooking. Maria stood behind the counter, tears welling in her eyes as she looked around at the bustling restaurant, feeling a sense of pride that she had never felt before. It was everything she had wanted, but so much more than she could have imagined. The woman who had made all of this possible stood beside her. "You did it, Maria," she said with a proud smile. "This is your dream. I just helped make it happen." And just like that, Maria knew. She knew she had made the right decision. It wasn't just about the success of the restaurant anymore. It was about realizing that sometimes the universe has a way of bringing people into your life at just the right moment, people who show up when you least expect it, to help you realize that what you thought was enough could actually be just the beginning of something far greater. Months passed, and the restaurant flourished. Business boomed, and Maria found herself able to focus on what truly mattered, creating memories with her customers, mentoring her staff, and continuing to serve the community she had always loved. She had the best of both worlds, the heart of her humble restaurant, paired with the resources to grow and thrive. Looking back, Maria couldn't help but smile. The woman who had once walked into her restaurant, starving, desperate, and unknown, had become a key figure in her success. But more than that, she had become a reminder that kindness has a way of circling back in ways we can't always predict. Maria had helped a stranger that day, and in doing so, she had opened the door to a future she never dreamed possible. The lesson was simple. Sometimes a single act of kindness can change everything. It can open doors, spark opportunities, and create bonds that last a lifetime. And just when you think the story is over, it might just be the beginning of something far greater than you ever imagined.